In a day and age where the sports media landscape is overloaded with fake tabloids and hot takes designed just for clicks, one show cuts through the chaos with pure, unfiltered honesty. From the End to the Bench Network, this is Givin Takes. Every week we go beyond the hype to explore the sports world, tackling the most relevant topics on the board while grinding through our starting nine. So, sit back, relax, and get ready for some real perspectives. Now, here's your host, Nate Miller.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome back. My name is Nate Miller, and this is Givin Takes, the online sports show where every single week I sit down with you lovely sports fans, and we talk about sports. This is the 20th installment of this show, Givin Takes. It's been around just about 6 months now. I think it'll cross over the threshold of 6 months next week. I think it was around Valentine's Day. When I shot my first episode. I think it was the 16th of February, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, we're 20 episodes into this. It's still just as fun as the first one. I enjoy every single person who comes into this stream to watch the show. I appreciate it a lot. And we got a fun episode today. This episode today, it was all baseball last week for those of you who watched, and we're still keeping up with baseball as there's a lot to talk about. It's an important season, and we're at a very pivotal point of the season as well, but we're also sprinkling in a good amount of football today because, Hall of Fame game just happened. That means preseason is going to start ramping up, which means regular season is right around that corner. I think a month from today is the Thursday kickoff of the NFL season, that Seahawks and Patriots rematch. I believe that's a month from today. So we're gearing up. There's going to be a lot of football predictions coming, forecasting, all that good stuff that you love. And I'll mention this now as well with football season. As I said, I think this will take place in 3 weeks, if I have it correctly, but I'll update you as we get closer to the date. The show will be moving to Tuesday nights, same time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That part's not changing, except we're going to push it back to Tuesday because with Monday being Monday Night Football, obviously, that's a big game, obviously, that I want to watch, not just for enjoyment, but, so I know what happened on Monday so I can give everyone the rundown of it when we get to Tuesday. So the show will be moving to Tuesday in about 3-ish weeks, I believe, but until then, it's still Monday at 9:30, and without further ado, we're going to get started, and I'm going to let you know what the starting nine's all about today. Leading off, we're going to be talking about some overrated NFL teams. I got 3 for you that I think are they're getting a little too much hype for the caliber of team that they are, in my opinion. Then we're going to be moving on to underrated NFL teams, the complete flip side, teams that I think should be getting a lot more love that just simply aren't, and I'm kind of confused as to why. And then in the third slot, we're going to be talking about I got 3 last-minute free agency NFL moves that I would like to see happen. I think there's still a couple solid guys out there that haven't been picked up yet in free agency, and I think a couple of teams, these aren't going to move the needle exceptionally, but they help out competitive teams in areas where they could use a little bit of help. Some solid vets still out there. Then in the fourth spot, we're going to be talking about the Arizona Cardinals and an unexpected kind of big decision they'll have to make at quarterback between Jacoby Brissett and Carson Beck that we're going to talk about. Then in fifth, we're going to be talking about the NFC South. That division is crazy. No team jumps out as like a powerhouse, of course. They're all just very, very evenly matched. And it kind of reminds me of the AL West this year. There's a lot of mid-tier competitive teams all playing against each other more than they play against other teams, all vying for the same playoff spot with that division win. So NFC South's going to be fun. I'm going to break down my early thoughts on it here a little bit. And then bringing it back in the sixth spot, haven't done it in a while, but with these wild card races now, it feels like we're due for an MLB Standings Check In. We're not going to do it by division like I used to do. I think more excitingly right now, our the very tight wild card races within the AL and NL. So we're going to be looking at the standings that way and breaking them down. Then for the State of the Union this week, the staple that we love, the Los Angeles Dodgers are on there, the juggernaut, the team that ruins baseball with how much they pay for players. They are getting put on blast this week because they have since snapped it, but they were just on a 7-game losing streak, 2 of their last 8. They've been playing bad baseball, and we're going to talk about it. And as always, in the 8th spot, tried and true, never changes. It's the 3 studs of the week. Got the small, medium, and big stud for you within this world of Major League Baseball this week. I picked out 3 guys whose performances I want to highlight. And then in the 9th spot, the first installment of this, which I will be doing, I'd assume, a decent handful of times throughout the rest of the season, I assume. Not every week, but we got some eulogies for MLB teams. Some team seasons, they are dead. They are over. And I think it's about time that we all, as a collective, acknowledge that these seasons are over and, bid them a farewell at the same time. And then afterwards, of course, it's going to be the top 10. I promised you something that wasn't sports related this week. I'm going to abide by that. This isn't sports related. It's something fun because I feel like I've done sports related the last couple episodes at least. And I like to switch it up here and there. So that's what we're going to be doing for the top 10. So without further ado, let's get into this leadoff topic, shall we? Overhyped NFL teams. So I got 3 teams who I think are getting a lot more love than they should, just by like NFL media as a whole, and also on the sports books. A big factor for me classifying overrated and underrated for this was looking at teams' odds to win their division. How do people think these teams stack up comparatively to other competitive teams in their division? There were 3 big ones in the AFC that stood out to me, so I'm going to break those down. The first is the Kansas City Chiefs. They are the favorite to win the AFC West at plus 175. I don't understand this at all. I don't know why the Chiefs are getting any love. They were terrible last year. They were a bad football team. The offense just wasn't there, and the defense was, I don't want to say finally bad because it's not like people were waiting for the defense to be bad, but that defense that helped out and kind of carried Mahomes to a lot of those close wins throughout the bulk of his career thus far just wasn't that good this year. It wasn't very good this year. And you also lost Trent McDuffie, who was probably your best defensive player last year. He got traded to the Rams and extended for 4 years. He's going to be a stud over there in LA. And on the offensive side of things, you did add Kenneth Walker, but Mahomes is coming off that injury, so who knows what his play is going to be like. I think he is going to be starting week 1, but it's going to be interesting to see how his health plays out. I don't know how this is the team that the sports books look at and say, yeah, this is the favorite to win this division against 2 playoff teams last year, like the Chargers and the Broncos. The Broncos were the 1 seed in the AFC last year, only lost 3 games, and they're not the favorite. The LA Chargers, yeah, they got smacked around a little bit by the Patriots in that wild card round, and they were the 7 seed. They still made the playoffs. They had 11 wins, I believe, last season. The Chiefs were just not a good football team. So the fact that they are this big of favorites against these other 2 teams to win the division at all, that they're a favorite too, just baffles me. And I think people are too high on the Chiefs for absolutely no reason. Second team I have is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this doesn't just come out of the fact that I don't like the Ratbirds, all right? I don't understand how this team is plus 100 to win the division. They were 8-9 last year. They finished with a losing record. They lost their head coach. Isaiah Likely's gone. They lost a couple other pieces on both sides of the ball. I get you have Zay Flowers. He's solid. Lamar Jackson, it's a coin flip every year whether or not he's going to miss 5 or more weeks of the season with injury. Derrick Henry's getting older, and we saw he had a lot of issues fumbling last year, and that's still going to be a big question mark if that gets fixed. I don't know how this team is the divisional favorite. They had a losing record last year. I believe they got worse. I get they added Trey Hendrickson, but that's one guy. This team wasn't one guy away on the defensive line from being a good team last year. The secondary was pretty damn bad for Baltimore too. Now, I get they had a lot of injuries last year, but at the same time, I don't know how you can look at that team that went 8-9. They're starting completely anew this year with an aging running back, an injury-prone quarterback, and really just one good wide receiver. Like, they lost Isaiah Likely to the Giants. Like, that was one of their best passing threats. Mark Andrews isn't what he used to be. Like, there's so much that I think trended down with the Ravens that I can't understand why they are the favorites to win this division. But at the same time, I get it. Maybe that's just the Lamar Jackson effect. I can understand that one the most of the three I have here. The last one I have that somehow makes even less sense to me than the Kansas City Chiefs being favorited, which is already crazy enough, is the Cincinnati Bengals are only plus 170 to win the AFC North. How does anyone think that this team is favorited over the Steelers to do anything in this division? I mean, they are doing the same thing they've done the last 2 years that has not worked. They have a great offense with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase at the center of all of it, but they have no offensive line to protect Burrow, so he's going to be getting sacked a lot. Their defense is still absolutely abysmal. To my knowledge, they made no notable improvements to that defense aside from basically swapping out Trey Hendrickson for Dexter Lawrence, which is like, yeah, that's just like, it's like you have a leak. It's like you have 12 leaks in your house and you just pack up one over and over and over again. And you're like, oh yeah, that'll fix the house. Like, no, like you were good on, like if you would have added him on top of Trey Hendrickson, then yeah, we're talking about an improvement. But you just replaced your only star stud D lineman with one other one. Like I don't know. That's not getting better to me. That's just changing the name and the player who you got. Like, you didn't get better. You didn't get worse. You just stayed stagnant. And for this Cincinnati Bengals defense, staying stagnant means being bad. This team, like anyone who has watched the NFL consistently knows that this team's defense couldn't, I don't even have a good analogy for it, but they can't stop anything. They can't stop anything, but they light up the field on the offensive side of things. So this team's going to put up 1 billion points this year. This team's going to give up 1 billion points this year. And when you're a team like that, as we've seen this exact Cincinnati Bengals team be these last 2 years, it evens out to probably somewhere between 6 and 9 wins. Your offense is going to be enough to win you some of these shootout games, but your defense is going to be so bad that it's going to lose you a lot of big games as well. You're going to be mediocre, average, and I think if a team is looking at probably 6 to 9 wins, there's no reason that team should be such a big favorite to win the division. Like, I don't get what's exciting about this team, aside from the same 3 offensive players they've been had, and it's still bad. Like, it doesn't work. We've seen it not work, and Cincinnati just keeps continuously thinking, oh, it's going to work this time, and it doesn't. So I don't understand why they are that close behind the Ravens as favorites to win their division. It baffles me, but those are the 3 teams who, by the odds and just by, the eye test to me, are very overrated this year. It's the Chiefs, Bengals, and Ravens. And a lot of those teams recently, too, have been like the 3, like, big pillars in the AFC. Like, oh, is it going to be the Chiefs, Ravens, or Bengals that make it to the Super Bowl? Mahomes, Lamar, or Burrow? And none of them made the playoffs last year. And probably you would say one of them gets back in there this year. I'd say if I had to bet on it, it would be the Ravens as like a wild card potentially. I don't think they have enough to win the division against the Steelers, but I just don't get how those teams are getting so much love. And if you're thinking about betting on them to win those divisions, I'd tell you I think it's a trap. But now on to the next topic, kind of more of the same. We're going to be talking about underrated NFL teams. I got 3 teams for you that are very long or significantly longer odds than the 3 I just listed to win their divisions. And I think they're pretty, not only just good value bets, but I think they're teams to watch out for that aren't getting the love they deserve. The first one is my Pittsburgh Steelers. They won 10 games in the division last year. The division was, the Ravens were better last year than they're going to be this year. So I would argue they went up against tougher divisional opponents last year than they will this year. I know Jared Verse is on the Browns now, but they're not going to have to worry about Myles Garrett 2 times a year, which is, he's always been a force against the Steelers. Like I said, this is a team that won 10 games last year. They switched up their head coach from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy. They did a little Mike swap. And hey, for those of you OG viewers, the Mike McCarthy head coaching hire is the first topic I ever did on this show. But we've finally done it long enough to get through the offseason and circle back to talk about Mike McCarthy again. I liked this move. I think it was good to get the Steelers an offensive-minded head coach because with Tomlin, they've been so like defensively skewed for so many years that the offense just became flat and predictable, and we weren't using our tight ends. So many things. But now we got a fresh offensive-minded head coach. I'm a big fan of that in terms of us putting up more points. I still think the players on defense can get it done. Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, who has been regressing, but he's still a solid edge rusher. Cam Hayward, who gets it done up front. You got Joey Porter Jr., who I think is a top 5 cornerback in the league. He hasn't given up a touchdown in a hell of a long time. He's an absolutely great piece to have on defense. And you got Jalen Ramsey, who will play a mix of cornerback and safety back there in the secondary too. I mean, we got good guys on this team. The defense had a down year last year. I don't believe that will continue necessarily, but it'll be interesting to see. But they added Michael Pittman Jr. and Rico Dowdle to the offense. They did lose Kenneth Gainwell and Calvin Austin, but I think they upgraded with Michael Pittman Jr. over Calvin Austin. It'll be interesting to see how Dowdle plays in comparison to how Gainwell was for us last year, because Gainwell, amazing dual threat running back. He was big in the pass game and in the run game, complemented Jalen Warren really well. So, but I would still say both of those are upgrades, and that this team is significantly better than they were last year after winning 10 games. And they're plus 500 to win their division. It is 5 times more unlikely, according to the books, that the Steelers win over the Ravens with what I believe is a better team on all fronts and a more experienced and legit head coach who's already gone and won a Super Bowl with his quarterback. I mean, don't forget, we got Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf and a great tight end room with Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington in it. I mean, there's a lot to love about this Steelers team this year, in my opinion, and I don't think they're getting the love they deserve. So that is my first team. My second team is the New York Giants. They're at plus 550 to win their division. Now, this isn't unlike the Steelers, which I just said, and the next one, which I will be getting to soon. This is by no means, I would pick this team to win the division because it's a surefire. I'm probably going to put some money on the Giants to win their division because I like what they got going on there. I think they're a fun young team, and there's always a team that goes from being terrible one year to making the playoffs the next. I think that could be the Giants winning what I think is kind of a weak NFC East this year. Cowboys are getting a lot of love with their defense is solid, and that offense is going to have to be great again. So the Cowboys will be a real threat. The Eagles, I think they're regressing. I think they're a third-place team. I like the Giants at either first or second place in this division. And at plus 550, it feels a little long to me because I like what this team has going on. I mean, they got the young combination of Isaiah Likely, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatabo, Malik Neighbors when he's fully healthy. They got the veteran presence of OBJ in there as well, which I think will be kind of nice just for like a locker room thing. I like this team as a wild card. And like I said, the plus 550, this is not like, I get why it's there. This is not one that I'm baffled by. Like, I understand it. And I'm not going to say like they're a surefire bet to win the division. That's not how I feel. But I don't think this team is getting enough credit for what it could be this year. I think the Giants are going to be a really fun team that kind of sneak up on people. And like we all know, I mean, it was the Patriots last year. They made the Super Bowl. Drake May's second year, no one was like, oh, this team's going to be the 2 seed in the AFC and make it to the Super Bowl. That is not how people felt about the Patriots. A lot of people were on the Patriots. I think the Giants have some kind of path this year. I'm not saying they are going to make the Super Bowl and win the division just like the Patriots did, but I don't think they're getting the love they deserve. I'm excited for what they got going on this year. And then the third team that is way too long odds to win their division, I would put them as the favorite no-brainer, is the Denver Broncos. They're plus 210 to win their division. They're the third favorite behind the Chiefs and the Chargers. This was a team that only lost 3 regular season games last year and had arguably the best defense in the NFL, maybe a top 3, because, I mean, Houston's and New England's and Seattle's, they were very good as well. Definitely a top 5 defense in the NFL. And this team would have made the Super Bowl had Bo Nix not been injured in the divisional round. If Bo Nix plays against the New England Patriots at home in that AFC Championship game, it's the Denver Broncos against the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl, not the New England Patriots. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And that defense still looks legit. There were no noticeable changes that I saw that are really going to hinder it this year compared to last year, barring everyone plays like close to the level that they did last year. And on offense, they added Jalen Waddle to complement Courtland Sutton, give another receiving weapon for Bo Nix. I mean, there's a lot to like about this team. RJ Harvey, he after the injury to I'm blanking on his name right now. Their starting running back last year, Javonte Williams, I believe it was. After the Javonte Williams injury last year, RJ Harvey came out and showed that he could be an RB1. I think he'll serve better as a little third down potential passing back, running back too. But I like a lot about that team this year on offense. And if that defense, does the same kind of dance they did last year, it's going to be a great team again. They only lost 3 games last year. It is impossible for me to fathom how the Chargers and Chiefs are both favored over this Denver Broncos team. I absolutely love them to win their division this year. So those are my 3 underrated NFL teams, the Chiefs, Giants, and Broncos. I think those are pretty fair assessments. I know with a little bit of bias, 2 divisional rivals of my team are overrated and my team is underrated. I know how that could look, but I think the evidence backs it up well enough to be like, yeah, the Ravens and Bengals shouldn't be regarded as this much better than the Steelers. It just doesn't make sense. The Chiefs shouldn't be that much better than the Broncos, and the Giants, I think, deserve a little bit more love. So now we're going to move into our third topic, the last-minute NFL moves I want to see made in free agency. I got 3 for you. I was doing a little research, who's still out on the market, who can be picked up, because it's hard to predict and assume teams will make trades right before the season. That's a little harder to grasp at. So I looked at who is still available in the free agent pool, and I found a couple of solid vets who are still out there that I think can move the needle a little bit here for some NFL teams. First one really quickly is Taylor Decker to the Chargers, former Lion. The Chargers need help protecting Herbert. This has been a story for a really long time when it's come to the LA Chargers. I don't think that is a news flash to anyone in particular. And especially with, I know Joe Alt was out for a lot of the season last year. I'm not saying that's going to continue, but he's probably not going to be playing at his 100%. We have to see it first. There might be a question mark about how great Joe Alt is going to be, because we know he can be great. But still, you can never have too much quarterback protection, Taylor Decker, real solid pass blocker. I'm not exactly sure how amazing he is in terms of the run game, but the primary concern has to be protecting Herbert when he drops back to pass. I think he's a solid player. I'm kind of surprised he's still on the market. I know he's a bit older, but I'm interested in him going to the Chargers. I know a lot of teams could use O-line help. You could honestly toss the Cincinnati Bengals in there as well as a team that could be a good fit for Taylor Decker. But at the end of the day, I feel pretty confident saying that it makes more sense that a team like the Chargers goes out and picks him up. Second move I have is Joey Bosa to the Panthers. This is a team that we're going to be talking about the NFC South a little bit more later. But this is a Carolina Panthers team that, won their division last year. They won it via a game of the Saints and Falcons, of those two playing. It's so funny to think about that. I'm going to get to that a little bit more when I talk about the NFC South. But that's still one of the funniest things last year, having the winner of the division between the Panthers and the Buccaneers be decided by a Falcons-Saints game. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But this is a team that did have a losing record last year, was the best in their division, and this is kind of one of those seasons where all 4 of those teams in the offseason need to look to separate themselves from the rest. And the Panthers, their defense is okay, but they do need help on the edge. Joey Bosa has battled injuries for a while, but he's been healthy these last 2 seasons. He's been solid in Buffalo, and if he's still out there and you can get him for a reasonable price, I think it would be a smart idea for the Panthers to add him into that front 7 and have him start rushing the edge. I think he would be a nice addition. It's not going to make their defense stellar. It's not like they're adding Myles Garrett and it's completely changing the landscape. But it's a veteran who knows what he's doing. You're plugging him in and just kind of getting him to help out where he can in a position group that's lacking a little bit. It's some veteran leadership as well, alongside just like the boost in play. And then my third one, as we get to the end of this fairly quick topic, is Bobby Wagner to the Giants. That Giants defense is young. That Giants defense needs help. And I think a veteran who has won a Super Bowl before on a great defense in the Legion of Boom era with the Seattle Seahawks is a great fit. He could help a lot of these young guys learn. He could take some pressure off a lot of these young guys because while he is aging, He still averaged nearly 10 tackles a game last year, which I believe was 6th in the NFL, which is pretty solid for a linebacker his age. He's not getting any older, but I think this could be a good opportunity to just kind of help bring that defense together a little bit. Give him like a veteran to anchor the linebacking core. Like I kind of really like this move. And as someone who said, as I just said earlier, I'm kind of high on the Giants a little bit this year. I think they can be solid. This would help them out a lot, I think. Not in terms of, like I said, just getting that voice in the locker room to help out young guys and kind of help fix a struggling defense a little bit. It'll give these younger players, someone to look up to, like a true veteran on that team. But he's also just he's a good player still. He was doing his job in Washington. Like, Bobby Wagner really hasn't had a terrible year in his career, in my opinion, stat-wise, except maybe really early on. I'm not too sure with like his rookie, second-year numbers, all that. But to my knowledge, Bobby Wagner has always been serviceable. He's done his job and been above average at worst. Like, Bobby Wagner's a great player. Like I said, he's not getting any younger, but I think he could be a really nice person to plug in to that New York Giants defense. Now, we're going to be moving on to our fourth topic. The Arizona Cardinals and their quarterback situation. They have a decision to make. Will it be Carson Beck? Will it be Jacoby Brissett? Now, this is a team that if you were to ask anyone 2 weeks ago, do you think there's going to be a competitive starting quarterback battle here? You're probably going to say no. I mean, it really looked like, Jacoby Brissett had a fine year last year, facilitated the ball really well, especially to Trey McBride, who had the best year of his career last year. It looked like Jacoby Brissett was just going to run it back, and they were going to see what happened. But now, after that Hall of Fame game that people just watched this past weekend, people are thinking Carson Beck might have a chance for that job. Not because of the numbers he put up, and those numbers were, by the way, 15 for 19. That's 78.9% completion percentage for 188 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. It goes beyond the numbers. It goes more about the passes that he was making were really good. Like, he just looked accurate. He was throwing the ball on the money. And you could say, yeah, take it with a grain of salt because this was the Carolina Panthers preseason defense. Yeah, you can most definitely say that and take it with a grain of salt. But still, he should be recognized for making good throws that quarterbacks need to make. Like, it's not like these were bad throws and the receivers were bailing him out against the bad defense. Like, he was consistently making really solid throws, and he should be recognized for an above-average performance against people on an NFL roster. So, like I said, the decision is between Beck and Brissett. And I want to preface this before I dive in a little bit about the questions that need to be answered and my take on who to start. Like, I've seen some training camp footage of the Arizona Cardinals. It is not like you're trying to pick between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning here. That's not what's going on. There have been a lot of bad passes being made. There have been a lot of receivers dropping passes as well. You can find it for yourself. Some of these, I guess you would call them lowlights from the Cardinals training camp, especially on the offensive side of things, have been bad. But then again, you have to take that with a grain of salt because it's the preseason. Like, a lot of what sucks about preseason speculation and even speculation about teams the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season is that it's just so early. No one's reached like their mid-season form yet. People are still, greasing up the wheels, getting things moving, finding their rhythms. Like, it's tough. So while taking all of that into consideration, the two big questions that need to be asked are who's going to start week 1 and how are the remaining reps throughout the rest of the season at the quarterback position going to be split between the two. I have answers to both of those questions. So in terms of who gets the week 1 start, I think it should be Jacoby Brissett. I think because of the familiarity, he has more extended familiarity with these receivers and the O-line and just more familiar with the system as a whole. I say let him get it going first. Let Carson Beck take a back seat for a bit. Let him learn for a while. While I think Beck has looked better here in the early goings, it's not like this is a decision that's going to make or break whether or not you make the Super Bowl or the playoffs. At least it doesn't look that way. But I think you start off with what all the guys on the team know and what everyone, for the most part, expected going into this season. I think you start with Brissett. However, I think you put him on a short leash, and that leads me into my second point of how the reps should get divvied up going forward. So I think you run it with Jacoby Brissett. No brainer, barring any injuries, of course, until at least week 6. And at week 6, you need to take a look at your team. If you're 2-4 or worse after the first 6 weeks with Jacoby Brissett, with the division you're in, it's not like you're going to have a chance to probably come back and win that division regardless. And the NFC as a whole is going to be tough that year. So if this Cardinals team is starting off with 2 or fewer wins through 6 weeks, they're probably going to be able to call it a season mentally and be like, this just ain't our year. So at that point, what does it hurt to give the keys to Carson Beck and see what he can do? What's the worst case scenario? You were terrible like you were again last year. You get a high draft pick. I mean, you do have Jeremiah Love running the football there now. I'm not sure what James Conner is up to, if he's still going to be around that organization, if he's going to be running back 1, running back 2. That's another question you can answer about the Arizona Cardinals offensive plans. But if everything went perfect for this team, maybe, yeah, they could get like 7 or 8 wins this year. It's like a ceiling. So I don't think there's really any wrong way you can go with it. But I think, if we saw Beck make some pretty good throws, I say you run it with him week 7 if you got 2 or fewer wins and it really doesn't look like you're going to do anything. If you're at 500, 3-3, you're a 500 football team. A lot of teams are 500 after 6 weeks. Stick it with Brissett. See if you can make a little magic happen with him. But if it starts to go south early, my vote's to switch it over to Carson Beck, but start with the veteran Jacoby Brissett. All right, so that's all I got for our 4th topic on that Cardinals quarterback situation. And now we're going to be moving on to our 5th topic, the wild NFC South. The NFC South, man. I talked a little bit about it earlier, and it's just such a crapshoot of a division. Like, it's insane. I mean, you're talking about 3 teams last year out of 4 in that division that all went 8-9. I mean, it's very rare you see 3 teams in the same division all finish with the same record. I mean, that alone is insane. And that sets up for how hard it is to dissect and figure out what teams are going to be this year. I mean, you can make legitimate cases for all 4 teams in this division to go out and win it, I think. And honestly, what I'm going to do is just that. I'm going to make a case for all 4 teams. And like I said earlier, detailing a little bit of how this division finished last year. As I said, the Panthers, Bucks, and Falcons all finished 8-9, with the Panthers being the 4 seed and divisional champs. And the Saints finished 2 games back at 6-11. So it's not even like the Saints were that far off the pace, which is crazy to think about. I mean, Falcons Saints decided the divisional winner between the Panthers and the Bucks. I said that earlier. I've never really seen something like that happen before. I mean, I've seen a game decide another playoff spot for 2 teams that were unrelated, but never within the same division. I feel like that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing you see, or maybe not once in a lifetime, but once in a blue moon is when you see that. But it's going to be absolute pandemonium this year, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some brief cases for the Bucks, Saints, Falcons, and Panthers. So starting off, we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the reason they could win the division is because Baker Mayfield is still a great quarterback in this league. I know Chris Godwin isn't getting any younger. Emeka Egbuka is a budding star, I think. He showed flashes of it early last year that he can be a great wide receiver. You're going to still have him out there catching passes. You got Cade Otton, who you're going to have in the backfield as well. And then you got Bucky Irving, Kenneth Gainwell, who they acquired, and Sean Tucker as, I think, kind of a 3-headed monster in the running back room. It's just an absolutely diabolical tandem. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they split those reps. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be getting a lot more receiving reps this year because of how stacked that running back room is. And when you talk about receivers of Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and Kenneth Gainwell, 2 of which are very young and are showing a lot of promise, I get kind of excited about that. That's an offense that I think can go out and be better than these other three teams. Now I'm going to be saying about that. I'm going to be saying that about basically every offense in here because, like I said, they feel all so solid and evenly matched that it's tough to make heads or tails of who's going to be better than what because there are so many question marks. But because of that, that is the reason the Buccaneers, because of their offense and that just kind of very well-rounded core throughout all 11 guys they send out, I think the Buccaneers have a decent shot to win the division. The case for the Saints is that Tyler Shaw can be the truth. He could be legit. He showed flashes of it last year. I mean, the big thing here is the fact that Chris Olave is going to need to stay healthy. That's a guy who, bless his heart, he's been injured so scarily so many times. Like, he's had more like jaw-dropping, scary injuries to me than anyone else I've ever seen in the National Football League. Like, consistently, it's like, oh, God, Chris Olave got his head taken off, like, again. Like, it's terrible. It's scary. I believe he just got extended, so they want to keep him for a long time. I hope he can stay healthy. But that's going to be a really big piece for Tyler Shaw. The defense, they're going to need to keep up with the offense. I think that was not a great defense by any stretch of the imagination last year. But they were a little bit better down the stretch at the end of the season when the Saints kind of started collecting some of these wins. I mean, I remember it was a game in, I think they might have only had one win at the time, maybe two. They had a game in New Orleans against the Giants. That was kind of the turning point in their season for me last year to when they kind of became respectable a bit towards the end. So it'll be interesting to see what the defense does. It'll be interesting to see if Tyler Shaw just caught lightning in a bottle and had a good couple of weeks, or if he's going to be able to do this consistently year in, year out. It's going to be interesting to see, but I'd probably say the Saints are the least likely, but there's still an outside shot that they could win the division. That is the least likely, though. It's been tough for me to pick a favorite, but I'm pretty confident in saying that the Saints are probably the least favorite. Now, third, this is a team that I cannot make heads or tails of, and I've tried to all offseason, and I don't know how I feel about them. It's the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that everyone was down and out on after the first half of the season, and they had a great second half of the season, but it was just too little too late. I mean, they were tied for first in their division technically last year, record-wise at 8-9. Great second half. You got Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. I believe Ray McLeod is still on this team. There's a lot to like on the offense, but the big question was quarterback. The quarterback last year for most of these wins was Kirk Cousins. Now this year, it's either going to be Michael Penix Jr., who people were down and out on the Falcons when he was throwing the ball, and Tua Tagovailoa, who on the Miami Dolphins, they just were the Miami Dolphins. They weren't that good. There were a lot of other issues with the Dolphins. Tua definitely didn't have the abundance of weapons in Miami that he would have in Atlanta if he got starts, in my opinion, but still not a great quarterback. I mean, to me, Cousins' play was the big shift in their season last year, and I thought they should have kept him and just, gotten rid of Penix, just bite the bullet, whatever. You messed up on a first-round draft pick, just let go of it. I'm not that high on Michael Penix with all the injuries, and he just doesn't – I don't foresee him taking really that big step. It's not like I'm hoping he won't. I just don't really see him taking that big of a leap. But at the same time, what I do want to say is if he does play well with how good this defense is and what the offense can do, if they get a quarterback that's serviceable like Kirk Cousins was last year, they 100% will make the playoffs. I believe that. If they have a really good quarterback play, like this team will make the playoffs. And what just makes me so mad that I can't even form the sentences about it is the fact that they let go of Kirk Cousins. They let him walk. He was the reason for this second half surge that you had any hope that you would do this. And you just are like, yeah, he can go. We're going to take a chance on Tua Tagovailoa or Michael Penix Jr. That's the thing. And finally, I'm not going to get too worked up about the Falcons because that could be a whole State of the Union for something that happened 2 months ago because I have so many thoughts on why I'm just so upset that they let go of Kirk. But the Carolina Panthers are going to be the last team I talk about here. They were the divisional champs last year. They went 8-9, and to their credit, they looked like a competitive football team. And I think it was a 10.5-point spread against the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card last year. And I believe they covered. I believe they made that a really close game, if memory serves. I can't remember. I think it was a touchdown game. I definitely don't think it was a 10-point game. I remember some important plays needing to be made down the stretch to wrap that game up. But the thing with me is that is still a team that went 8-9. They showed flashes like that Bryce Harper is going to be able to be that guy that this year. They got their head coach. They won the division for the first time, I think, since the Cam Newton era. Like, there is a lot trending in the right direction. But when you, like I said, when you take a step back and you look at all that again, you have to remember 8-9 was their record. And my thing is, I think they're going to be around as good as they were last year. And that is a team that's like 8-9, 9-8 maybe. And the question just becomes, is that enough to win the division? Because you did lose Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle single-handedly, I think, won them like 2 games last year with his rushing performances on offense. And like I said, Bryce Young looks great, but between the Falcons and the Buccaneers, I think one of those teams is going to win. I think the winner of this division is going to need at least 10 wins. And I just don't know if the Panthers got that in the bag. So like I said, I think they're going to win around 8 or 9. I would honestly say maybe Falcons, Buccaneers, both. One of them might win 11 games. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But like I said, while I don't think the Panthers got worse, the fact is I just think that they're going from an 8-9 team to an 8-9 team again, which, like I said, was enough to win the division last year. I don't know if that will be enough to win the division this year. So it's not a knock on the Panthers. It's more just saying, I mean, that should have been the Buccaneers division to win, if not for an insane collapse the second half of the season. I don't see that happening again. I think the Falcons play a little bit more consistently. Like I said, if the quarterback plays out, if not, they'll probably be pretty bad. But the Panthers will be there in the mix all season. I just don't know if they have enough to get that top spot. Could be a wild card team, though, depending on how the rest of this NFC shakes out. I'm definitely not counting that out. But in terms of who will win, like I've said a few times, I still don't have a confident pick. But if you were to twist my arm, make me pick something, I would say at this moment in time, if the quarterback situation works out, my pick is the Atlanta Falcons. If it doesn't, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is how I view the NFC South at this moment in time. And you understand why I call it the Wild, Wild NFC South, because it's tough to make heads or tails of any of these teams, and just so many things could go in so many different directions in terms of the NFC South. But now we're done with football talk. Done with football talk means I drink water real quick. Now that we're hydrated and done with football talk, we're going to move over from the gridiron to the diamond, and we're going to get started. And start the end coming up of the show, but the beginning of the baseball talk here with the MLB Standings Check In. Now, I'm going to throw up the standings in the National League for you here first. Like I said, we're breaking this down by wild cards. You can see 1, 2, 3 seed in order goes the Brewers, the Braves, and the Dodgers. And then 4, 5, 6, Cubs, D-backs, Phillies. And then in terms of teams vying for a wild card spot, first team out is the Padres at 1.5 games. And then you got the Marlins 3 games out, Cardinals at 3.5, Nationals at 4.5, Pirates at 5.5, Cincinnati Reds at 6. And then I would say I need to move the banner so you can see the bottom of the standings, but it just covers up the sad Colorado Rockies all the way down there at the bottom. So this is what the standings look right now. I mean, aside from the Met, like all these teams are still kind of in it. I mean, Mets and below, they're not really in it. But when you look at like Nationals through the Reds, like that clump of 3 teams, I mean, all of them are technically still in the running for the playoff spot. As unlikely as it is that they will make it, which don't get me wrong, I do believe it is very unlikely that any of those 3 teams will make the playoffs. 4.5 to 6 games is not an impossible number of games to make up in a month and a half. It's nearly impossible, but not fully impossible. So you could still honestly say that between the 3 teams that have already locked it up and the 6 teams still gunning for a spot, that there are 9 teams still in contention for a wild card spot. Now that'll probably whittle down close to 6 here after like 2 weeks. Can probably pronounce some more seasons dead, but as of now, I'd say there's still 9 teams in the National League that are looking to get into playoff spots that have somewhat realistic hopes of doing so. I mean, like I said, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Phillies, who are all already in the playoffs. Then you got the Padres, Marlins, and Cardinals, who Padres are a game out, and the Marlins are 3, and then St. Louis 3.5. Those are all, what would you call that? Those are all deficits you can overcome in terms of games. And on the outside looking in, but mathematically still feasible, are the Nationals, Pirates, and Reds at 4.5, 5.5, and 6. So not extremely likely for those bottom 3 teams, including my Pirates. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I think we're making the playoffs this year or something. But mathematically, we're still in it. And the worst team of that bunch is the Reds at 5 games under 500. I mean, it's not even like the play is that terrible. It's just a stacked league this year. So that's what I'm looking at in the NL right now. I will give you who my 6 teams are as of today that I have making the playoffs. I've done it before a couple of times, and it's ever-changing. But as basic as this will make me sound and as much of a cop-out as it may seem, it's the 6 teams that are in there right now. The 6 teams that are in there right now, I believe, are the 6 best teams in the National League. I think the playoffs are going to look exactly like this. If I had to bet on it, I would bet on this to, for the most part, stay the same. I think the Dodgers are going to be the 3rd best team in the National League record-wise, and they're going to have to face a scary Philadelphia Phillies rotation in a 3-game wild card series. I mean, Luzardo, Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez in 1, 2, 3. I mean, even if the Dodgers are facing that, man, that's a scary 3 guys to go up against in a do-or-die baseball series. So that's tough for the Dodgers. And I think the Diamondbacks have been playing very, very well recently. They are only a game ahead of the Padres, but I like what the Diamondbacks got going on. I feel more confident in them than the Padres up to this moment. Even though the Padres did bolster up their rotation, it would not surprise me at all if they made it in. I think I'm just a little more confident in the Diamondbacks at this moment in time, just because of kind of that clutch factor they've shown a little bit throughout the course of this season. Some big late wins. They clutched up to tie the game against the Dodgers with back-to-back triples, but then did the most unclutch thing you could and didn't score the guy from third with no outs. It was the winning run. So there are ups and downs for all these teams, but I do feel pretty confident in saying that the playoff field is going to be Brewers, Braves, Dodgers, Cubs, D-backs, and Phillies. I know that's what it is right now, and it's a little bit chalk, but that's how I have it going as of now. And then flipping the page over into the American League standings, this is what we got here. The Tampa Bay Rays, Chicago White Sox, and Houston Astros currently all lead their divisions, with the Yankees, Red Sox, and Texas Rangers in the 3 wild card spots. You see on the outside looking in, the Detroit Tigers only a game back. I was calling their season over a while ago on this show, and I was pretty confident about it with how low they were in these standings. But they've been playing good ball, and they're only 2 games under 500, which is crazy to see. Minnesota Twins with the same record as the Cleveland Guardians is absolutely absurd to see. They're both a game and a half back. The Baltimore Orioles are 2 games back. Then the Mariners and Blue Jays are only 3.5 games back. So we're once again talking about a league where 9 teams theoretically are still in contention for the playoffs. But this is even more likely. I mean, I'll go back to the NL real quick, read this off to you. The St. Louis Cardinals are the 3rd team out of a wild card spot at 3.5 games. The Toronto Blue Jays in the AL are the 6th team out of a wild card spot at the same number of games. I mean, the AL is so competitively mid this year. It's absolutely insane. I mean, you're talking this Toronto Blue Jays team and the Seattle Mariners, they're both the same record, 3.5 games back. They're 56-63, and we're talking about realistic, legitimately realistic chances of them making the playoffs at only 3.5 games back here in August. I mean, I'm very curious to see how long there's going to be this large sum of teams still mathematically competing for spots. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy to me. And like I said, at the bottom, Only thing you're missing out on when I put the banner up, the lonely Los Angeles Angels, all the way down there, is the worst team in baseball, in my opinion. But this is another I don't know which race I find more fun, the AL or the NL, because the AL is more competitive but worse, and the NL is a little less competitive, like in terms of how widespread the game's back range, but the teams are better. So both have their reasons for being incredibly exciting. Both deserve to be talked about here today. And probably towards the end of the month or the beginning of next month, I will be diving back into these standings because I can only assume they're just going to get crazier. I mean, I've looked at standings for, I think it's been 14 weeks. I think episode 6 was the first MLB episode I did. So we're talking about 14 weeks of this MLB season. I've looked at the standings a lot, and I've had conflicting opinions with myself over and over and over again based on how these teams are playing. So it's tough to pick 6 teams that I'm like, oh, these 6 are going to be the best 6 in the AL because of how much parity we've seen. I mean, I wouldn't have had the Boston Red Sox 5.5 games up on the wild card a month and a half ago. I would have called you crazy. I would have asked if you've even watched the sport at all this year, if you were just a bandwagon. But that's where things lie after they had a stretch of going 27-3. So the unpredictability of this league has been absolutely insane, which makes it even tougher to pick 6 teams, like I said, but I got 6 for you. Those 6, I got 3 from the AL East. I think the Rays, Red Sox, and Yankees all make it, and I don't think that's that big of a gamble to take. As we see, Rays leading their division, Yankees 7 up in the wild card, Boston 5.5 up in the wild card, with just how mediocre the rest of these teams are in the pool. And even with how bad the Yankees have been playing, it's tough to envision any of them regressing to a point where they miss out on the playoffs. So I believe all 3 of those teams make it. And then I have the Chicago White Sox. I believe they will win their division, potentially be the 2nd seed in the AL and get that first round bye. It'll be interesting to see. But I also have the Houston Astros because someone has to win the AL West. As mediocre as it may be, someone's got to win. And I think with Jordan potentially going for a triple crown, I think he's going to carry that offense. They've been playing well. They just beat the Rangers in some big key games. I'm going to take the Astros to win that division, even though I was on the Rangers to win it for a long time. I've kind of switched over to thinking it'll be the Astros now. And then the 6th seed, who will be the 6th seed? I'm going with the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers, to me, have been playing the best ball of any of these outside-looking-in teams for a while. They've even been playing better than the Texas Rangers, who are in right now. They've been playing the best brand of ball lately, which is crazy, too, because they did give away Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize. But, Jackson Job's up. He's been pitching well. I mean, they got some bright spots. It'll be interesting to see how these things shake out. Maybe in Verlander's last year, they get a little bit of old vet magic in the retirement year, and they give him one last playoff run with Detroit. You never know. It would be fun to see. I know especially my Tigers friends would most definitely like to see that, but I'm going with Tigers for now, but there's a big asterisk next to it because I don't feel very confident in it. I feel the most confident in them at this point, but it's no shoo-in, needless to say. So that's how I view the AL wild card race, and on top of it, as well as I mentioned earlier, the NL wild card race. And now it's time we move right on into the State of the Union, I think. I think it's State of the Union time, if you ask me. We're talking about baseball teams. We're going to zero in on just one here to nitpick, complain about, and ridicule for their poor play as of late. The State of the Union today is the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's not the worst stretch by an MLB team of all time, or even this season necessarily. But also, I haven't had too many opportunities to be like, oh yeah, the Los Angeles Dodgers are State of the Union material this week. So you best believe I am taking that opportunity, no doubt. So they haven't been good in August. I mean, as much as I was joking about, oh yeah, the Dodgers, like I got a window and I'm taking it. I mean, they haven't been good in August. They're 2-8 in their last 10, which includes a 7-game losing streak. As I said in the standings check-in, they are now 3rd place in the National League, which means they no longer get that first-round bye. They didn't have a first-round bye last year either, but they just had to play the Cincinnati Reds. That wasn't that tough of a task. This year, it's looking like they'll have to play either the Padres, Phillies, or Diamondbacks. As I said, I believe it'll be the Phillies they have to play. And facing the combination of Sanchez, Wheeler, and Luzardo in a playoff series is really tough to beat. I mean, the Dodgers, if they're not careful, could be going out before even making the divisional round this year. So they do need to fix their play. And the big reason for a lot of these losses lately has been the pitching. And we'll get to it in a sec, but the pitching has cost them a lot of games. And that divisional lead against the Diamondbacks is down to 7.5 games, which isn't like, oh, you're super scared if you're a Dodgers fan, like, oh, the division's down to 7.5. But you're also not feeling great about the fact that this divisional lead was once 12, 13 games over the Diamondbacks. They've already managed to make up 5.5. If this keeps up with the Diamondbacks playing well and the Dodgers not, is there a chance they make it close and uncomfortable for the Dodgers, potentially not winning their division for the first time since 2021 when the San Francisco Giants won 107 games? There's a lot to think about. But like I said, it's not scary now, but it's one of those things that could begin to unravel. Had the Diamondbacks plated that run from third, we're talking about a 5.5 game divisional lead here, which is a lot scarier. Luckily for the Dodgers, it's still only 7.5. They're going to make the playoffs. There's no reason to push the panic button yet. But it's still something, it's an idea you want to keep. Like, you don't want to lose sight of the Diamondbacks in your rearview mirror if you're the Dodgers, is what I'm saying. So back to the stats, though, crunching some numbers for you real quick, letting you know what's good with this team and, more importantly, what's not good with this team. Starting with the offense. Offense hasn't been great, but it hasn't been the worst thing in the world either. Team batting average of 244, 294 on base percentage. That part's bad. Only 367 slugging, and that's a 661 team OPS. Those are, if they keep up on this trend, those will be their worst numbers in all 4 categories over the course of a single month if this continues throughout the rest of August. They're on that pace. They've struck out 57 times in 270 at-bats. That's a 21.1% K rate, so slightly over 1 in every 5 batters they're striking out. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it feels a little bit high. Like, for the fact that it's only been 8 games that they played in August, it feels a little bit high for that sample size. 57 strikeouts in 8 games, just, it seems high. Dave Roberts is running his bullpen worse than Donnie Kelly. Yeah, neither are very good at it. And the bullpen needs help, and the starting rotation needs help as well, or finishing up on the offense a little bit, they've only drawn 18 walks. And the team, which, once again, it's not bad, but it's just, from a team of this caliber, you expect these numbers to be higher with the players they got on their teams. I mean, and now we go over to the pitching, the numbers that I got for you real quick, because like I said, offense, not the worst thing in the world, but definitely underperforming compared to where they should be at. Team ERA 5.27. That is a high ERA. They have given up 40 earned runs already this month, and they've only played 8 games. They're averaging 5 earned runs a game. There are a couple unearned runs in there too. I think 3 or 4. So that skews it a little bit, but still, average it out. They're giving up 5 runs a game, which, even with your Dodgers offense, it's tough to consistently put up 6 a game when you're giving up 5. And they've given up 17 homers in 8 games too. That's a little over 2 homers. That's like 2.03 homers a game or something like that, probably. Something just slightly over 2 home runs a game. And that's the story of it. They're giving up the long ball too much. Their pitchers aren't doing their job. Tarik Skubal makes, I believe he is on the mound right now for the Dodgers in a game. I'll give you a little check-in on how he's doing real quick as I pull it up here. The LA Dodgers, they gave up Skubal gave up a run to the Kansas City Royals in the first at home. It went leadoff single and then a force out. Bobby Witt Jr. beat out a double play, then stole second base. And then Jack Caglione singled him in, which led to Salvador Perez grounding into a double play and getting out of the inning. Needless to say, though, not a great start for the Tarik Skubal era in LA. They've only won 1 game since he's been there. He's already given up a run to the Royals, which isn't a great start, just kind of hammering home what is wrong with this team, and it is just the lack of pitching at the moment, which is crazy to think because they got guys like Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, even though he's battled a lot of injuries. Tarik Skubal, I mean, there's no reason this team should have a 5.27 ERA over any stretch, but here we are. So that is what I have on the Dodgers for you. They've been playing a bad brand of ball lately, and it's not the end of the world, but if it keeps up, it could get interesting in that NL West. But I still think they make the playoffs. I don't think they have to worry about that. But now we're going to be moving on to the 8th topic, the tried and true here every week in the 8th spot. It's the 3 studs of the week. I got a small, medium, and big stud for you. 3 guys who I think stood out above the rest this week and had either a good single game performance or a good week-long performance. My small stud is a single game. My medium and big are week-long. So starting off with the small stud, I got Logan Webb. This was his best start in a long time that he had recently against the Detroit Tigers. I've always liked Logan Webb. He's been a great guy. Would have always loved to see him in black and gold. But he went 8 innings pitched, only gave up 4 hits, 1 run, which was earned. Only had the 2 Ks, which was low, but only walked 1 guy. I mean, 8 innings of 1-run ball from a guy who hasn't really spun it like that in a while. It's nice to see. And a little partial bias given the fact that this is a player that I really like in this league that I enjoy seeing do well, but he's just down there at the small stud for turning back the clock and having his best start in a while. Secondly is Jake McCarthy. Jake McCarthy on the Colorado Rockies lit it up this week. I was speculating on hitting for the cycle. The Yankees might try to pick him up in a trade because they need an outfielder like this, but he stays in Colorado, which I think is smart for the Rockies, because while a lot is going wrong for the Rockies, Jake McCarthy is not one of those things. He had 14 hits this week in 28 plate appearances, had an average of .519 and an OPS of 1.352. That's a pretty high OPS. Oh, and he only struck out 1 time in those 28 plate appearances. So he brought his season average up to 306, has been knocking the cover off the ball in terms of contact, not really with the power, but he's been putting bat on ball very consistently at a high rate and is a bright spot in a very dull Colorado Rockies offense at times. So congratulations, Jake McCarthy, medium stud. And then the big stud, kind of long overdue because this guy has been lighting it up ever since the Red Sox started playing this amazing brand of baseball. It's just now I think he's finally had a week where I'm like, yeah, I can throw him on 3 studs of the week. And since it's long overdue, I gave him the big stud, Wilyer Abreu. He had 9 RBIs this week, drew 5 walks, only struck out twice, and he had a game where he hit 2 home runs. And he's got his WAR this year is up to a 4.6. I mean, he has been an incredibly important piece to this Red Sox team and a large part as to why they're winning. And I think now more than ever with the place in the standings the Red Sox have found themselves, these players on that roster deserve the respect, like I said, now more than ever. So it felt like a good time to highlight Wilyer Abreu's play. And I mean, man, just 9 RBIs in a week. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And with the 2-homer game to complement it, 5 walks, he's getting on base a lot and only struck out twice. Gotta love when you got a guy hitting for power that isn't striking out a lot. It's not always easy to come by, but fantastic week for Wilyer Abreu. He is my big stud. So running back those studs for you real fast. Small stud was Logan Webb for his 8 innings pitched of 1-run ball against the Tigers. The medium stud is Jake McCarthy for knocking 14 hits this week and hitting .519, bringing his average up to 306 on the season. And then finally, as I just said, Wilyer Abreu for his 9 RBI week and being a big piece of this surging Red Sox team. And now, as we move on to our last topic, it's time to bring the mood down. We're having 6 funerals this week on Givin Takes as we get going with our MLB Eulogies. 6 teams who I am officially pronouncing as having dead seasons. Their seasons are over. It is time that we close the chapter on this season for them. We stop really caring about what these teams are doing. If you're a fan of this team, maybe just go to the promotional nights. Your owners clearly are doing something wrong. Maybe you shouldn't be giving them money for tickets every game. Maybe you should sell the team chance. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could go about it. But we got 6 seasons to pronounce dead. Let's get it going. First one is the New York Mets. You spend all that money for nothing. Again, you spend money and lose like no other team does in this league. And at this point, I'm not sure anyone wants to play for the Mets, including the players who are on the Mets. So hats off to New York. Hats off to you, New York, for finding new ways every year to just be exceptionally terrible with that large of a payroll. Secondly is our Colorado Rockies. We didn't expect much from you this year, but it took you a lot longer this year to become fully irrelevant than it has in years past. And on the bright side of things, you got some young guys that you held on to through the trade deadline, so you have some exciting things to look ahead to in the future if you can fix your pitching. I mean, there's hope. There's hope for you yet, Colorado. So while this season is over like we all expected, you have hope for next season. The third team that we are saying goodbye to and pronouncing the death of their season is the San Francisco Giants. San Fran, I thought you were going to be a wild card contender this year. I thought you were going to be in the mix. You had the names on your roster like Rafael Devers, Luis Arias, Willie Adames, Matt Chapman. I mean, that was your infield. It looked good. It looked like you were going to be a solid team. Put up some wins with guys like Jung Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos in there with Bryce Eldridge as well. I mean, you had a lot of things going for you, and everyone played terribly. You could blame it on your manager coming up straight from college last year. You could, you couldn't. It's up to you. It'll be interesting to see how this goes next year after your sale. Obviously, you got rid of Robbie Ray and Luis Arias and Elliot Ramos, but while you can look ahead to next season if it's played, depending on the 2027 lockout, you do know for sure that this season for you is over. My fourth eulogy that I have to give out, it goes to the Los Angeles Angels. It's looking like for the first time in franchise history, you're finally going to lose 100 games, which in the midst of a myriad of terrible and disappointing seasons you have had as a franchise in the Mike Trout era, this one is somehow going to stand out above the rest in a year where he's been more healthy than he has been in a lot of these years past. So another year of Trout is wasted. The Angels continue to be sad year in and year out. We are pronouncing your season dead. Then our fifth eulogy is for the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas Athletics, whatever you want to call them. They got more potential city names than good starting pitchers this year. I had playoff hopes for this team preseason. I thought you guys were going to do something, but you just grossly underperformed all season on both sides of the ball. I think you got enough young guys to where you're going to break through eventually. Maybe you need to wait until that move to Vegas for it to happen. But changes need to be made, especially on the pitching side of things. You're giving up way too many runs. That needs to be a big point in this offseason for the front office, is getting arms. But you can't get them anymore, and you're so far back, even in such a weak AL. It is hard to be out of the picture this much in the AL to the point where you are dead. But the Athletics are dead. I am sorry, but it is time to say goodbye to your season. And then finally, our last and final eulogy of this installment, because we will have more. You can guarantee it. We'll be having 29 eulogies on this show because only one team can win. It's the Kansas City Royals. I wasn't expecting you to be the best team in the American League this year. I wasn't necessarily expecting you to win your division this year, but I expected more than this. You are god-awful. I mean, with the combination of Jack Caglione, Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, and Bobby Witt Jr., you just had more hope that 4 of the 9 guys in this offense would be working well enough to pick up the other 5. But it just hasn't really been all that on the offensive side of things. The pitching is just kind of weird. Like, they're just so mediocre. Like, I was never that high on the pitching going into it this year, but they just really fell below expectations this year. And I thought they were going to float around the wild card, but they're just in such a weak AL. They're so uncompetitive, it hurts. And I just don't know where this franchise is going. How long are you still going to have Salvi? Are you going to think about trading Bobby Witt or Jack Caglione if you continue to not win with them? There's questions to be had, but they're questions for another year, because the thing that doesn't need question about this year is the fact that your season is over. So those were our 6 eulogies, the 6 seasons we say goodbye to and put to rest in 2026. They will not be doing anything this year. It is over for them. They can pack it up, go home, stop trying. It doesn't matter. But what does matter, it's the top 10. You knew I was gonna think of some clever segue. It's the top 10. And I promised you at the top of this episode, I promised you last week, it's not going to be sports related. I kept my promise. Top 10 this week, because I just finished watching the show. My top 10 Game of Thrones characters. I just got done watching Game of Thrones. Back in 2023, I watched the first 5 seasons of it, and then I just kind of got out of it and stopped. And then back in October, I watched the first 6 seasons of it. I finally made it through season 6, and then I got out of it and stopped. And then about a month ago, I started watching it again, and I was like, this time I'm going to finish it. And just yesterday, I finished the god-awful season 8 that everyone talks about being the worst thing to ever grace television history. And honestly, I think it gets a little too much hate. The last 2 episodes are not good by any stretch, in my opinion, but season 7's pretty good, in my opinion, and the first part of season 8 is fine. I don't think it deserves the hate it can get. I get by comparison it's not as good, but I don't think it's the worst. I think the bulk of the end of Game of Thrones gets overhated. Last 2 episodes were bad, though. But I'm giving you my 10 favorite characters. Spoiler warning, if you haven't seen all 8 seasons of the show, I'm going to be referencing kind of what these guys do throughout all 8 seasons of the show. So if you have any intent on watching the show, you're in the middle of watching it, just stop watching Givin Takes. I understand. I am giving you this option to stop watching right now because I don't want to spoil Game of Thrones for you if you haven't seen it. So that is your spoiler warning. You officially, legally cannot get mad at me anymore if you learned something you didn't want to about the show. So let's get right into it. Number 10, I got Samwell Tarly. A lot of these guys you're going to see on this list are just kind of compasses of what's good and righteous in a universe where there's so much hate and deception. I mean, Samwell Tarly, trained to be a maester. He was a good guy, defined his father, loving, happy, saved Gilly from the wildlings, raised little Sam, and ended up becoming the Grand Maester of King's Landing and the six kingdoms, which it turned into. So Samwell, always a good guy, cured Jorah Mormont of his grayscale when no one else would. Good heart, good guy, number 10. Number 9, I got Tormund Giantsbane, baby. I had to Google his last name because I was like, does this guy have a last name? And he does. It's Giantsbane. Tormund, great character, funny, comic relief. I think they kind of got lazy with writing his character a bit in the later seasons. They made him a little dry and one-dimensional, but the purpose that he served when Jon was going up, north of the wall, getting the wildlings, trying to not only originally fight him and get to Mance Rayder, but then defend his own wall and then bring more back to protect against the White Walkers. Tormund was always there, and he was a big ally for Jon, knowing that he had a good heart. He was a good guy, perpetuated the good that needed to be perpetuated in that storyline because there was a lot of hate and a lot of people trying to kill each other. But Tormund was there. Tormund was good. He's a funny guy. I got him at 9. Number 8, I got Arya Stark. Arya had some really cool storylines. I think the way her character ended, the way she killed the Night King was kind of like meh to me. Thought it was a little like, I don't know. That was just, I didn't like it. I liked that it was her that did it. I thought that part was cool, but I didn't like the actual way they just like, oh, and the Night King dies because Arya jumps up behind him with a knife and then drops it into her hand and bang. Like, I thought that was pretty corny. But like the way with her training to become, like, she always wanted to be a warrior. She trains with Syrio. Then she goes off with the Hound for a while, and she's with the Brotherhood for a bit, and then she trains to be a faceless man. She goes all over the world learning these different things about fighting and becoming tough, and she becomes a tough-ass fighter. So I think it's a dope character arc for her. I got her at 8. At 7, I got Sansa Stark, her older sister, at 7. Another great character art as well. She started off as just, scared of kind of everything when she went down to King's Landing. Very naive, very innocent. And then she learned the tough way that the Game of Thrones gets played, and she started learning to play it very well. She played the game well, became the Lady of Winterfell at the end of the show, which I thought that was a fitting ending for Sansa. But she had a good story arc. I love how tough she became. She got good revenge against Ramsay, watching her release his hounds on him. That was great. She got revenge on Littlefinger, too. That was great to see. she had some really good moments. I thought she was good in her ruling and just with stuff like that, so I got her at 7. 6, I got the man, the best smuggler in the game, Sir Davos Seaworth. Once again, just because he was a compass of what was good and right in a world in which a lot of people just were psychotic, evil, horrible people. I mean, he didn't want Genji to be killed by the Red Woman. He tried to set her free. I know he would have fought tooth and nail to save Stannis Baratheon's daughter. I can't think of the name of it. The one that had a little bit of grayscale on her face. I can't think of her name right now. I'm going to try to see if it'll just come to me. Shireen. It's Shireen. The Princess Shireen. He would have died for her had he known what was going on. I love that he told off the Red Woman and threatened to kill her if she ever came back because of what she did to the Princess Shireen. He's a tough guy, good smuggler, kind guy, always willing to help people out. I got him at 6. At 5, I got Hodor. Hodor, he was a simple man because of a time kind of thing in the past that I still don't really fully understand. Like Bran warged into the past, into young Hodor's mind to control him in the present, which I think caused a seizure for him, which then led to him, instead of, everyone's yelling at him to hold the door, he just kind of meshes that into one word, Hodor. And then Hodor, he's got giant's blood in him. He's a big dude. And if he he'd probably be the most dangerous man on the planet if it wasn't for the seizure he had, causing him only to be able to say Hodor. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a kind guy. If it wasn't for him, honestly, the 7 Kingdoms wouldn't have survived the Night King because Bran would have died. So Hodor is a big piece of all of this. Kind guy. You feel sorry for him, but he's a tough dude. I got him at 5 because who doesn't love Hodor? Number 4, I got Jaime Lannister. I think the second best character arc in the show. From how much you hate him in the early goings to how much comparatively you find yourself rooting for him. And if it wasn't in the corniest way possible, you would almost maybe feel some emotion when he died in the second to last episode. I mean, you kind of feel it a little bit when Tyrion goes down there and he sees, he finds Jaime's gold hand, and amidst the rubble, his brother and sister are dead. I mean, you feel it a little bit there, but not as much. But it was cool. I liked watching him kill Euron Greyjoy. Euron Greyjoy sucked. I hated him. He was annoying. And with all the problems Jaime Lannister had, you could tell he was trying to be the best version of himself as he could after he lost his hand. I mean, Jaime from season 4 on, I think is just such a great character and a fairly likable character, even though you constantly see him go back and forth. Like, did you kind of side with Tyrion's way more and that kind of way of thinking, or is he just going to go back to thinking what Cersei thinks? It's interesting to kind of see him struggle with that. He's kind of funny too, and great guy, great character. I got him at 4. Number 3, I got Jon Snow, the tried and true. Also, before I get into the top 3, I forgot to mention this at the start. Honorable mention, Sir Bronn of the Blackwater in here. I forgot about him when I was making this. I might have thrown him in at 10 or 9, maybe over Tormund or Samwell. I'm not sure, but if this was a top 11, he'd be in here, no doubt. So shout out Bronn. He was a great character. But at number 3, I got Jon Snow. I would argue he is the main character of this show in such a large ensemble cast. It's tough to pick out one like this guy's the main character. But I would probably say it was Jon Snow, the bastard of Winterfell, which I don't know how I really feel about the storyline that he was kind of just ended up being a Targaryen this whole time instead of a Stark. Thought that was a little unnecessary. Kind of cool, but just, unnecessary. It didn't ruin his character for me or everything. It was just meh. I didn't love him in the final season, just being totally blindly loyal to Daenerys, but at the same time also just not. But then he kills her, and it's just all I don't know. But with his passion and devotion to doing the right thing, bringing people together, the living fighting against the dead, I always loved all of that. And he was just a great moral compass throughout the show. Always fought for what he thought was right, and he fought for the lives of the living. He guarded the realms of men, you can say. So I got him at number 3. I do think it was kind of funny and fitting, though, that after all this and everything, he just circles back to being allowed to join the Night's Watch. I did think that was kind of a decent tie-up to his story. Not great, though. Number 2, I got the Imp. I got the Half-Man, the Dwarf, Tyrion Lannister. Peter Dinklage just did such a good job with Tyrion throughout all these seasons. The episode of his trial for Joffrey's murder is 100% my favorite episode of this show. I think it's so great. He's brilliant in all of season 4. He's so he's one of the few characters that just his brain is what sets him apart from the rest, because it's obviously not his size or his fighting capabilities or his stature or nothing like that. Like, I respect him because of his advanced mind and just how he was able to think and how well he knew how the Game of Thrones was played and how all of these politics worked throughout this realm. Just made him such a valuable asset to anyone who was around. I mean, he conspired, or I forget what he was thrown into the cell with at the end of the last episode. I think for treason, because he didn't want to be Hand of the Queen anymore. And then Grey Worm wanted to execute him, and Bran was like, nope, you're going to be my Hand of the King. And he was like, all right. And it's just because of how valuable his mind is, and that proved tried and true throughout the whole show. And he's funny. He's a funny little half man, as they call him in the show. So I got him in number 2. Comedic relief, but also incredibly smart. Now, at number 1, you might not have seen this coming, but this is no doubt my favorite character. He's been my favorite character since the first time I saw him on the screen. It's the Hound. Sandor Clegane is my favorite character in this show. There's so many cool aspects about him that I like the rivalry with his brother, the story of the Mountain and the Hound, him pressing his face up against the fire like a mutton chop, and the fact that made him deathly afraid of fire. And this big, tough, burly, mean guy, kill anybody, do anything, no emotions, has this great fear of fire because of a childhood trauma. I just think the way that was written into this character was so good and so compelling, and I'm such a big fan of it. I loved how his storyline ended with him actually being skilled enough and a better fighter to kill his brother, but his brother, the Mountain, was already dead, so he physically couldn't win, so he took them both down together. I liked that. I thought that was a fitting ending for his character. What he meant to Arya, I thought was really cool. I liked that he kind of had this redemption arc of trying to be a good guy and do the right thing in the end. Obviously died diving into a large fire, I thought that was good writing. Like I said, I actually like how his storyline ended. So, I mean, yeah, how do you not love the Hound? Tough guy, protector. You could tell he's got a sweet spot. I absolutely love him. So, running back that top 10 for you quick of my favorite Game of Thrones characters. Honorable mention, Sir Bronn of the Blackwater. At 10, I got Samwell Tarly. 9, Tormund Giant's Bane. 8, Arya Stark. 7, Sansa Stark. 6, Sir Davos. 5, I got Hodor. 4, Jaime Lannister. At 3, it's Jon Snow. At 2, it is Tyrion Lannister. And at number 1 at the top of the list, I would probably, if I were to do a list of top 10 of just my favorite television show characters ever, this guy would probably find his way onto the list. Sandor Clegane, the Hound. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys this lovely Monday night. As I said at the top of the show, this will be one of the last batch of Monday shows that I do until we get going into NFL season. Then we'll be moving to Tuesday. And then after that season wraps up with the completion of Super Bowl 61, which obviously won't be for another 6 months, we'll be moving back to the Monday spot. So a couple more Monday episodes for now, rotating to Tuesday. And for the foreseeable future, maybe it'll stay that way. I don't know. That's all very far in advance. Too far ahead to see for now. A lot of what you would call it, far ahead speculation. But one thing that you do know is it'll be my face here streaming to you live wherever you're watching this show, whether it be on the ETB network on YouTube, one of the various Twitter channels we're streaming to, or if you're watching it on the Givin Takes YouTube channel, it'll be 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, me sitting here talking sports to you. And like I said, a couple more Mondays here going forward. And then for the foreseeable future, at a minimum, until the football season ends, it will be on Tuesday. After that, probably still Tuesday, might move back to Monday. That's a conversation to be had in 2027. But I enjoyed talking sports with you all today. I hope all of you enjoyed that were listening and watching with me here on this Monday evening. It's been great. And next week, I'll be back at it with the 21st installment of the show. I'll have more stuff to talk about, more NFL look ahead, more stuff talking about the MLB season. The college football could start getting talked about soon. That's going to be ramping up here very shortly as well. So a lot of fun stuff going on in the sports world. I always enjoy talking with you about it. And next week, our show is going to be old enough to drink. It'll be 21 episodes. Our show will be able to drink next week. It's a pretty big milestone for our little Givin Takes. So Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you sticking with me for this hour-and-a-half long episode of the show. And as always, I've been Nate Miller. Those are my takes.